So, hi guys, I hope everyone out there is doing great. I'm fine too, and if you're not doing fine, I just pray you get to be okay. Just as you know, this is Heal Me, Heal You Therapy Show, and I am Blue. As I promised, we're always gonna have a visitor, an invitee, whatever, however I call it, coming over to share their stories or to give us some different advices, but all about mental health and how different people deal with it or how we can just cope with mental health disorders or issues. I just don't know the right term to use, but I guess disorders will be great. So, just as you remember, last time we heard an invitee coming over to share her story, and our segment in that part was art as a remedy for mental health therapy. I guess so. If I'm just wrong, just remind me down below. And today we're just going to have someone very we'll just fill that in and I'll let you guys see who it is.
No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up. No, no, can't deny it. No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up.
Hello.
Hi,
It's nice having you here first.
it's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored that I was invited to this. I think it's nice.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, the guest of today is finally here and I'll just let him introduce himself.
So my name is Bruce Mugwaneza, and my friends who love my writing call me Poetik. I'm 29. I'm a web developer and poet. Half-time hobbies as a hobby. I do it as a hobby, and I'm also an advocate for mental health. As
That's
a
very beautiful.
Yeah, as a person who dealt with it in my life, I use my experience, I use the knowledge I've acquired and everything to help others who may not be aware of it or who might not know how to get help. And I share my story as a way to motivate others to feel comfortable to come out.
I really like that. It's something very brave and very beautiful. I wish everyone out there who's suffering or who's going through all of that could just come out or could be strong enough or could even have the power to share out what they're going through because it might be a help to someone else.
Yeah.
And I really love that about you. So you said something about your friends calling you a poet. What?
Poetic Wolf.
Why did they call you that?
I called myself that. I used to love wolves because I felt like they were people always associate wolves to evil and mean, and basically they kind of like see them in a negative way. But anyone who knows about animals knows that wolves are the closest to humans. They are social animals. They live in communities. They love, they help, and they don't attack unless they have to. So I added the poetic because I'm a poet, so it was like the poetic love, basically.
I just didn't know anything about wolves and I just learned a lot today. So, thank you first. So, once again, it's really beautiful having you here, and I just hope everyone who's going to watch this is going to enjoy because, guys, I'm telling you, he's very. Oh my god, I'm gonna tell you. You're just gonna figure it out. Yeah. So, how about you begin by just. Wait, you just said you dealt with mental health disorders.
Yeah.
And how about you begin with sharing us the story of how maybe you figured out you were sick or you were going through the mental health disorders and like the whole everything, like the story, if it's fine with you, of course.
That's all right. So since when I was young, I always felt different. I always had a hard time fitting in with other kids of my age. I usually loved keeping it to myself, and whenever I would try to join others in a sense, I would always overdo it or try hard, but I would never really get it right, you know? And I used to have like a very vivid imagination when I was in primary I would make my own movies in my head and make characters and give them names, and I would draw them in my book. And whenever I would try to study, I would always find myself drawing the things, and I didn't know why I could not focus. I used to hate myself because my dad would tell me to study, and I wanted to study, but then I couldn't. So whenever I would start studying, I would just switch to something else, and without choosing to do that. But I didn't know what that was, and I didn't question it a lot, so I kept going through it, and I would have a hard time obeying, if I can say that, and following orders, and I would always see things differently from other kids. And it was not a big problem when I was in high school, but when I got to when I was in primary, it was not a problem. But when I got in high school, I went in a boarding school, and from there everything changed. Because when I was in primary, I had my family, I had like a safe environment. There was not allowed to kind of like rat on my personality or kind of like shock me in a way. So when I was around like, let's say like 15 and 16, when I was in high school, I was in a boarding school, and I got there. I didn't know anyone, and I did what anyone would try to do. I tried fitting in, but whatever I would do, I would embarrass myself, and I didn't know how to act among kids my age. So they started calling me names. They started calling me confused and stuff, and for them it was a joke, but for me, it kind of like
get to you.
made me feel even more isolated, because I would try really, really hard to fit in, but it was almost impossible. So at that time, I was also dealing with anger management. Like I would get very frustrated and angry, and my eyes would become red and I'd get like veins, and I would start punching stuff. I would try to cry, but I couldn't cry, so I would suffocate deep inside. I was in pain, but I didn't know what that pain was. I was really, really hurt, but I didn't know what was happening. I was like, why am I this way? Why can't I be just like anyone else? Why can't I fit in? I'm trying so hard to fit in, but why is it hard? And I talked to the school nurse. I told her about it, and she told me what everyone was telling me. She's like, it's all in your head. You can deal with it. Just forget about it. And then that, even though I'm sure she meant well, but by saying that, it made it even worse. I'm like, it's supposed to be easy to fit in. It's supposed to be easy to feel good. It's supposed to be easy to be happy. It's supposed to be easy. So why am I struggling to do it? So I felt even more of a loser than I was before, because I'm like, she's telling me that it's my head, and obviously I should get over it, but then I'm not getting over it. So what the fuck is wrong with me? Sorry for cursing. At that time, I started having suicidal thoughts. I tried killing myself many times with medication, but it didn't work. I once tried hanging myself. It didn't work. And then from there, I just stopped caring about everything. I started hanging with the bad kids. I would go to the nurse. I'd be like, I have malaria or something, and she would give me medication. I would just take the medication. It wouldn't do anything to me, and basically, I started to become like, I was always among the 5 last in school. And when I got to senior 3, that's when I left the boarding school. I went to a normal school where I would go, and then so there I went back to my family, but then I thought that things were ending, but it was starting. You know how black families are.
Family?
Whenever I would fail, I would get beaten. They would tell me that I'm stupid, that I can't do anything, that I will never succeed, and stuff like that. And I already felt bad about myself. So whenever they would tell me that, it would reinforce that feeling inside that I'm nothing, that I'm just a loser. And when you hear those words from your parents, and you hear those words from people you trust, you start to believe like, maybe I am a loser. And then, so it becomes hard to live. But then I my dad told me something very special. You know, he once, okay, it was out of it was not related to that. He saw other kids, and then there were like some girls, and he was like, "Can you go and talk to the girl?" And I was like, "No, I'm too nervous." Like I tried to tell him that whenever I try to speak to girls, I start sweating and whatever. And then he told me that in life we all have weaknesses. So you can live your life alone, or you can learn to deal with it and learn to basically work on it, basically, you know. So that really like spoke to me in a sense. So I started working on myself. I didn't know that I still didn't know that I had a mental disorder, but I knew that something was wrong. So I was like, am I just going to be the victim of this? So I started trying different things. I started reading philosophy and psychology and stuff, and I started educating myself. I started trying different things, and that's when I started even cutting myself as a way to heal, which was, some people might say that it's fucked up, but for me, it was kind of therapeutic, you know. Anyway, so those are the moments I can recall that I started going to, that I realized that I may have something, basically. I know it took a long journey to get there, but
No, it was beautiful. I enjoyed everything. I just can't come to, to understand how someone actually, a nurse, someone who should know better, gets to come out of nowhere and just be like, it's all in your head. I mean,
yeah,
you're supposed to give at least a bit of a care, like even if it's in my head, care about it.
not, I'm not angry with her, because like
I'm not either,
in
but
in our country, mental health has been stigmatized. You know,
that's
has been
why we
stigmatized.
should.
It has been demonized, and if the majority of people think that it's not something that is real, right? And then the people that are trying don't really understand it. They may say something thinking that it, with no bad intention. They may say something wanting to help, but that might end up doing a negative, like might produce something negative. And it's all born from the stigma where people think that mental health are not real because you cannot see it like a wound. It will not give you a fever, but it affects your lifestyle. It affects who you are as a person, how you treat others. It affects how you act in society and how you treat yourself, basically.
I just think it's time we stop using the stigma and our country not being aware of mental health disorders or the sufferings that people are going through with mental health as an excuse to, hurt people or to not help. Because I think someone coming to you and asking for help, like maybe I'm having this, I'm going through this and it's disturbing, you just need to think about what you're going to tell them before you really get to open your mouth. This is what I tell everyone around. I'm like, if you just don't know what to tell me, you just stay quiet. Don't say anything. It's better if you don't tell them anything than just come with the word that will just break their heart or
Yeah.
would just even add on to their pain that they're going through. You get, like, if we all went around using the stigma and our country's history and everything, that not being aware of the mental health and stuffs as an excuse to hurt people or to not help, do you think this would end? I don't think so.
No, I don't think it would end, but I think in order for us to change and to bring change, we have to acknowledge the status quo, and we have to acknowledge what's the situation. And I don't want to judge anyone, you know? We are not responsible for our ignorance, but we are responsible for staying ignorant, you know?
Exactly,
The-
exactly. That's my
But
point.
at the same time, like people like that, like sometimes they're not bad. They don't mean harm, you know, and they may try to help, but then they don't know how exactly to help, you know.
That's why then don't.
It's about, no, I think you should try one thing, and then, but you should be open to listen more than
That's the
than
problem.
talking, you know?
People who don't even know how to help, they don't even give you a chance to talk.
Yeah.
Or they don't even let you speak to them and they listen. They just always have something to add on, It's either they're judging or it's either they're saying this or that, and boom, guys, we need to stop that. Yes, so as you just had, he just shared the whole of his journey towards realizing that he was dealing with mental health disorder, and how it was hard on his side, and how people made it even harder, like by judging, like, you are a failure, you did this and this and this, and then it added on to his suffering. And now my next question will be, like, when did you realize you needed help? That is, if you got help. And when did you realize you needed help? Did you seek help, or you just, some people realized you were suffering and they offered help? And if yes, if you got help, or if you seek help and then you found it, how was it? How was your journey towards healing? Did the help work, or did it not work? Did I talk too much? Do you remember the question?
Yeah. So my journey toward healing can be divided into many pieces.
Did you just say I talk too much?
No.
You said yeah.
I did. I did not.
Oh, I talk too much.
So my journey toward healing can be divided into many parts. What I mean by that is, like, there are things you notice and there are things you don't notice, right? I knew I had difficulty focusing, and I knew when I was in high school, I used to black out. Like, I'll be doing one thing and then I black out and then find myself in another situation.
Wait, what do you mean by blackout?
As in, I would get lost in my head, and then I would basically, okay, to give you, I'm going to share an embarrassing story. So I was in boarding school, and I was coming from the lunch, the dining hall. I was going to the toilet. I knew that I was going to the toilet. So when I left the dining hall, I started thinking about, there was a tree in front. I started thinking about the tree. It's like a tree, and then started thinking about the leaves. I was like, in my head, there was like a lot of things going on, like many thoughts going on about trees and leaves and other things.
Trees and leaves.
Yeah. So from that moment, I was not on the road.
Trees and leaves.
Why are you laughing?
I mean, who thinks about trees and leaves?
What? I do. It was an interesting tree. Anyway, so...
I should not say that. Oh my God.
So
excuse me, but that was funny.
I got lost in my thoughts. I got lost in my thoughts of trees and leaves. And from that moment, it's like I was not in control of my body, right? A part of me knew what I was going to do, but another part of me was not. If you ask me who did I meet on the road and what did I see and what happened on that road, I wouldn't tell you.
Remember.
I don't remember. I blacked out basically. Like, I was no longer there. I was just among the trees and leaves. So
the trees and leaves.
when I came to myself, when I came to reality, you know what I found? I found myself peeing in a sink. You know where they wash hands?
Yeah.
I was urinating in a sink. And I don't know why.
That's really embarrassing.
The bathroom, the toilets were there, but when I tried to make sense of it, I think it's because the shape of the sink and the toilet kind of like looked the same. So because I was not there 100%, I saw something that resembled whatever, and then my body started acting while I was still thinking about leaves and trees. So that's what I mean that's what I mean by blacking out. I would take a bike. And
which grade were you though?
What?
In which grade were you?
I was in senior 2. I was in senior 2.
You were young.
Yeah.
People can.
But it kept going. It kept going. I'll be, let's say I'm going to eat, and then like you have like this thing where there's like Nutella, and then you have like an omelette here, and then you take salt, you put on the omelette, then you put in the Nutella. So there are those situations where you take a bike and you get lost in your mind, and then you find that you have passed your home like 1 kilometer away. So I told my dad that, and we went to Ndera. And I was in senior 3. We went there, and at that time mental health was even worse was terrible. And the doctor usually treated it like it was malaria. You sit with the doctor 2 minutes, and then he's like, okay, well, let's put him into this one test. And then you go into that one test. which is like basically like a test, maybe like a test of epilepsy. Well, you don't have epilepsy, so let's just give you this bunch of medications. And that is what happened to me. They gave me some meds. The medication didn't do anything. My dad was like, "Do you feel any better?" I was like, "Do I feel any better?" But no. So it happened twice. I went there when I was in senior 3, and then I went there again when I was in senior 6, because the problem continued and actually it got worse. So at that time, still I was still learning about myself, and this really, really, really helped me. Like not meditating, just like sitting down, taking a piece of paper, trying to figure out who you are. I wrote who I thought I was, right? I wrote the things that I'm bad at, the things that I'm good at, and basically it was in a sense where I was writing it like if I was with a doctor, what are the things I would tell him? And I got to kind of like evaluate myself, who I was as a person, and how what that thing that I did not know affected me, right?
And sorry to ask you or to cut you short, but you wrote down who you thought you were, who you thought you were,
like
and things you did and things
I wrote
you imagined you did.
So I was like, let's say I wrote that I am good at this, I'm not good at this. These are my qualities, these are my flaws.
But remember, you heard a thing where you imagined things, to be like this. Didn't you think it could maybe happen where you write things that you don't do that you imagine you do?
Not really. It's about being honest with yourself and reaching deep inside and acknowledging the situation you are in. It's being, you are not, no one is judging you, no one is asking you a question. You are the only one who's sitting there.
Okay, so you just it's like a reality check.
Exactly. It was like a reality check. Like these are the things that I hate about myself. Among these things that I hate about myself, these are the things that I can change, and these are the things that I cannot change. Right?
I don't know how I would feel if I really take a piece of paper and write down things
it was really eye-opening. It was hard, but there's this thing where they say like before anything else, you have to start with a person in a mirror, and that goes mostly for someone who's dealing with a lot of things, because I mean, like mental disorders is about it changes your perception of yourself, right? It's not reality, it's an irrational part of reality. Basically, it changes the way you see things, and it comes from a place of emotion and being overwhelmed and stuff. So if you are able to kind of like sit with yourself and sit with those things you call demons that are within you, and you sit with them, and then you kind of like go in a meeting with yourself and be like, hey, let's be honest, this is the situation, these things, I love them. And actually, for a while, I started to like that I was different. I started to like that I had issues. I started to be like, maybe I shouldn't try too hard to fit in. Maybe I shouldn't try too hard to be like everyone else, right? And it kind of like helped me to start the journey toward helping myself and toward seeking help. And then I started even asking myself like, what is this? What do I have? So like 3 years ago, that's when I actually went to a doctor, a psychologist. We had many sessions, and therapy is amazing, by the way. Therapy is one of those things where like you can go on a meeting with yourself, but if there is someone to kind of like guides the conversation with yourself, you can learn a lot about who you are, and you can learn about everything that kind of like haunts your soul. It's therapy is a good way to kind of like comfort who you are as a person, and you can do that alone, but it's a journey that is better even when you have someone to do it with you.
So it started by you noting down everything, like you comforting yourself first, and then you jotted down everything like from what you do best, what you're better at, what you hate, what you love, and everything.
Yeah.
And then after that, you went to see the psychologist.
So to give you perspective, like in my room, I used to have, like, you see those sticker papers,
Yeah.
you know. So I used to have one paper. On one paper, it was written, "You are not worthless," and on another paper, it was written like, "What are you doing now?" On another paper, it was like, "Really? Should you be doing what you're doing now?" So there were like questions that I had reserved to ask myself in those moments. So it was basically like on front of my room, on the bed, right? In front of the bed. And every morning I would wake up, and sometimes I would be wasting time and I'll be not doing something I should do because I get distracted easily. But then I would see that paper, and then it would be like me asking myself that question. Or whenever I would get depressed and I hate myself, I start to think that I'm nothing. I started to think that the things they are saying about me is true and stuff. I would look at those things that I wrote when I was not feeling that way, to kind of like remind myself that I'm not nothing, you know? I'm who, and I'm whoever I choose to be, you know? So that I started the journey by helping myself, but then later on, I looked for people who will help me, who would help me help myself even more.
So
And that was
they
my journey
did.
toward. Yeah, it helped a lot. And now I live by myself. I've been living by myself for like 3 years. I pay my own rent, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, I know, like many people my age don't know where they're going or career wise. I know what I want out of my career. I know where I'm heading, and I was able to do all those things regardless of whatever mental disorder I have.
Yeah,
And
that's really good.
Yeah, I was last year I was diagnosed with ADHD, which is attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, which is why I had difficulty focusing and why I would get distracted and why I would black out. But I also had anxiety disorders, which is the reason why it was hard for me to fit in with people.
I
And
know. It felt like everyone is judging.
exactly. And I also had chronic depression, which is why I would get sad out of nowhere for no reason and get depressed for no reason and
You
stuff.
still do?
I still do, but now because of that journey I took that took 10 years, I cope. I know how to cope better, you know. But of course, there are many ways. I guess we are going to get there. That I used to cope, and anyway, that's my journey toward getting help. And when I realized that I needed help, it was a progress. There was a time when I knew that I needed to help myself, and then there was a period when I knew that I needed help from other people.
First of all, I'm so sorry that you had to go through all of that at a very young age and you really didn't know what was going on and nobody was helping. I'm sorry about that. But second of all, I'm really proud of you. You're a really strong person. It takes a big heart to realize that I don't know what I'm going through, but I gotta figure it out. It's really a big, I don't even know, accomplishments that I cannot do. I'm really scared of facing myself because the first person that I'm scared of in my life is me because I don't even know how far I can go. But you did that and you faced yourself. It's really beautiful. And I can't even imagine what you're going through having to do with ADHD and chronic depression and anxiety. Oh my God.
Anxiety disorder.
Yeah, you just had a lot on your plate.
So there is something I learned that is very important, you know? Like the journey toward healing is very difficult, but then it's also very easy. Let me tell you what I mean by that. It's I would, if I could give an example that resembles that, the journey toward healing is like jumping off a cliff, right? So before you jump, you are scared, you are terrified, and it basically will take all the energy you have for you to make the jump, right? But once you have taken that jump, the rest is just falling. You get it? So it's a one-step process.
That is even scary.
Yeah, exactly. It's a one-step process. But the beginning and that part where you have to take the leap and basically start, It's like when you learned. I don't know if you know how to swim.
Never.
Okay. For people who know how to swim,
I'm not swimming ever.
for people who know how to swim, the hard part is getting comfortable in water. But once you are comfortable there, you can even do
Oh,
whatever.
that's giving me chills.
You will never sink. Once you are comfortable being in water, you will never sink. So that's the same thing.
Go ahead and be comfortable in water. I'm good on being
Yes.
comfortable.
I love swimming.
Yeah, you should. You should love it. The water is all yours. I'm not gonna fight with you over that.
Thank you.
But really, seriously though, he's really strong. Tell me if you can do that. Tell me if you can sit down and face yourself and be like, hey, hello girl, I'm just gonna figure out everything about you. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Well, thank you, but I don't think I can do that. But it's really beautiful. You're a great person, and thank you for sharing with us. Like, that whole process, it was really amazing. Some people, except me, who's still very afraid of that, I'm certain they've learned something from that. And now I would like to move on with our next question, which is the most, I guess, to me, the most important. Yeah, so my next question is, what are the things that you do to cope with, like, the whole things you were going through? Like, you said at the beginning, you self-hurt, like, you hurt yourself, like self-harm, and it's really something hard and bad, and I don't think anyone deserves to go through that, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. So please share with us what are the ways that helped you cope with everything that you were going through.
Okay. I did many things. I used to burn myself, like I said. I used to hurt myself. I used to take like a nail, and then I would heat it up, and I would put it on my chest. Anyway, that's one thing. Second thing was alcohol.
You did what?
What? You take a nail, you heat it up until it gets red, and then you put it on yourself until it becomes cold. It was really crazy. Anyway, okay. The other ones are the normal ones. I drinking.
Are you okay now?
Yeah, I'm good.
How strong is your heart and your mind? And
People do worse things. You know, I like with something hard. You just have to touch it. Now imagine people who cut themselves. That is even more difficult and more badass. Anyway,
everything is just bad. It's very bad. I don't even know.
But-
Nobody deserves to go through that.
but it kind of like made me feel something, because that's the problem. Like sometimes you
don't feel nothing.
empty, you feel nothing, and you just need that pain to kind of like shock you and bring you back to reality. I also drank alcohol, smoked, but none of those things really helps. But instead of helping, it creates other problems. So if you are drinking, you start to get dependent on the alcohol. But the problem with alcohol is that it makes you feel good at that moment, but then it gets worse after.
Yeah, when
So
you get back sober.
Exactly. Number one, you have a very bad hangover, but you start to feel even more shittier than before. And that's when you go back to drinking again so that you can go back in that situation. But then it gets worse, and then you drink again, and then you drink again, and then it goes on and never ends. You know? So there is that. There is the fact that I was trying to fit in. Also, that was one way of dealing with it, I'm guessing, which also was unhealthy. The other way, the healthy way I dealt with it, when I was in senior 2, I started writing. I was very bad. I would write like 1 line, but then after a while, writing became like therapy. So whenever I would feel a certain way, whether it's happiness or sadness or depression or love or anything, I would just write about it. Now, I did not know that I was doing poetry until a friend of mine was like, "Are you a poet?" I was like, am I a poet?
I don't know.
I don't know. And so I started writing and I fell in love with writing, and that's how I became the Poetic one. It came as a way for me to deal with my own problems. It was kind of like therapeutic because when you're writing, you think about your situation and then you kind of like heal through your writings. So writing was a very good way for me to cope. And then there was also getting help, professional help from people. There was another way I would try to cope whenever I would feel sad. I would watch something that would make me laugh, like stand-up comedy or something. Or I would just try to hang out with friends or try to exercise sometimes, even though I didn't like exercising and I still don't like it.
Yeah. Sometimes you do things you don't like just, for the sake of doing them. Yeah, if they're going to help you, just do them. Yeah, once again, thank you for selling that. And I hope you learned something from his ways of coping with whatever he was going through. And we all have our ways of coping with something we're dealing with. You might not use what he's using, but all you have to do is just accept that you need to, to end what you're going through. And then after you accept it, that's when you will be like, you feel like you need to do things to end that pain or the discomfort or however you're feeling, but you just first need to accept it. And now my last question, which is going to be like a very big message to the people that watch whatever we do day to day, and to the whole randoms, like young, old, everyone out there. I hope he will learn from what he will answer on this question. And I really hope it changes the way we think about mental health. I really need this, or whatever he's going to answer, to end the stigma. We need to end it. We need to end it. And what he will say, I'm certain it's going to end it, right? You contribute, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my last question is, in one word, just one word. Don't say two. And that's a challenge. You people write to me like down below in the comments, section, and tell me one word that defines the thing that you want the society or the government to care about, of course, related to mental health. So in one word, please tell us one thing you want the society, like me and you and everyone out there, and the government to care about related to mental health.
Empathy.
Give me 5. Yeah.
So what I mean by that is like you may not be going through what I'm going through. You may not feel what I'm feeling. But if you try to kind of like put yourself in my position and try to feel how you would feel in that situation, then you can know the right way to act. Because as human beings, we are very selfish, and empathy is a good way to kind of like point the gun to us. That way we can feel how we feel if it was us in the situation, and that way we can relate or try to relate to it. Which is why me and my friends, we started an organization called Here to Share. It was a way for us to share our stories as a way to help others heal. Basically, we use our own experience and the things we have gone through and different things we have learned to help people who may not be aware of it or who might be going through it and thinking that they're alone, to let them know that there is someone who's there and who's willing to listen to them and who's willing to share with them and willing to walk with them on that journey of healing. So Here to Share, you can find us on Twitter. It's a Mental Health Rwanda, and on social media Here to Share.
Oh my God, that's very beautiful. Like when you just mentioned empathy, I felt like something, like some burden was just lifted off my shoulders, and it's really a great word, or it's really something that we need to recognize and care about. Like emphasizing with someone is something beautiful, rather than just saying I understand and just cutting them short. Or like, how about we talk about it tomorrow? But if you empathize with them, You don't have to say can relate, or you don't have to say you've gone through that. You just have to, open
Listen.
your ears and listen. Wow. Are you a genius? What is your IQ? Is it 3 digits? Or 2 or 1?
I don't know.
I'm certain it's 1.
I haven't taken that.
It's 1.
Is that bad or good? I still don't know.
Bad. That's the worst. It's bad. It's 1, and I guess it's like 2.
I don't know.
2?
Answers,
3?
The answer is still the same.
You don't know. I would just answer that for you. Your IQ is really great because of the answer you just gave. So for him, he just answered empathy, and that's a great one because it's all about listening and trying to relate or relating to what your neighbor, your friend, or some strangers going through, and that could really help a lot regarding mental health and ending the stigma. So it's now your turn, guys, to just text me and tell me your word, like one word, or that you think defines that something that the government and the society, and by the society I mean you, me, and everyone out there, should care about when it comes to mental health. So I guess that's the end of today. He's so dramatic. We had a great time with you, and it was really nice. Thank you for sharing with us. I know that's gonna help someone. Might not be 1 or 2, but I know it's gonna help anyway. And it really helped me. On my part, I'm really grateful to you because you taught me how to face my demons. Because it's really hard. And guys, I don't think I mentioned it, but our segment today was the journey from heart to heal. So it's like the journey from pain to healing. However hard it was, however hard it still is, however, hurtful it is or it was, I still figure it out and then found a way to heal. That was the whole point of today, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. So keep watching us, and I'll make sure I'll bring you more handsome and beautiful ladies so that you could watch more. So until we meet again, ciao.